going to switch gears on you one more
Okay.
time, and then we're almost done here. What were you most proudest of during your term as mayor?
I loved being mayor. It really, it was the greatest job you could have. I enjoyed those days tremendously. It's every now and then when someone says maybe you ought to run again, it's it wouldn't be the same probably, but I loved it. I loved dealing with the policy issues. I loved dealing particularly with the people issues. I loved trying to figure out how do we get people to come together and figure out what needs to be done and get it done, because it's a lot harder to do. It's easier to stop things than it is to get something done. Learned that pretty easily. But I think the main things I usually talk about it, the annexation program, while it was controversial, I think was crucial to the city's long-term health and growth. When I started, we were a city of about 170,000. We're now a city of about 250,000. And that allows us to deal with challenges, whether it's blizzards or economic downturns or floods, better than if that boundary line had shrunk. And it allows us to take advantage of opportunities, to try to bring new businesses in, to do downtown improvement projects, whatever, when you've got the city right-sized or closer to right-sized with an annexation. I always felt maybe we should look more at a combined, consolidated government, but that was hard to do. But the annexation was a way to try to say these artificial boundary lines that we call city limits should reflect the economic demographic reality. So doing that, I don't think that would have happened if I hadn't been there and hadn't pushed it. It wasn't easy to do. Got a lot of people angry at me, but it was crucial. So that was on one hand. On another hand, what I tried to do is in effect the city became bigger, is I tried to turn the power back to the local level more. I started really working with the neighborhood associations, setting up what we called the area partnerships, and I think they still have them, northwest, southwest, all quadrants had area partnerships. Community-oriented government is what we called it. And it was basically, I didn't want City Hall to be making the decisions on which street's going to get fixed first or which sewer project goes next. I wanted the people that drove those streets and were affected by those sewers to be doing it. And so we would turn, in effect, a lot of the decision making out, saying, here's how much money we have available for streets or sewers or police protection or parks in this quadrant of the city this year. You decide which ones you want, and maybe you decide you're in effect it's this neighborhood, and next year it'll be that neighborhood. Before that, it always seemed like everybody who had the most clout downtown. This was work it out with your neighbors, and we would set aside money each year so we could keep doing it. I would have police department, street department, utilities go to those meetings on a regular basis, report what's going on, hear what they were saying, and it wasn't perfect, and there were I'm sure things that needed to be worked out, but it was with the idea that government works best in terms of setting the priorities at the local level. It might work better in terms of collecting the money or setting overall direction, or at least implementing those decisions at a broader level, because you've got the expertise and the dollars. So community-oriented government, and to the extent that continues, I'm proud of that. Other thing was just getting some of the major downtown projects done, particularly Headwaters Park and Courthouse Square. It's I'd been around town for a long time. They've been talking about Headwaters Park and doing something about the flooding and at the confluence of the three rivers for years. And there were a lot of plans drawn that were gorgeous and a lot of ideas, and nothing ever happened. Not a single inch of land had been acquired. And people were holding out for the state, and the state wasn't coming through, and they were holding out for something else. And I finally said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it now. And so we pushed to do it at the local level. Then state money came along, and private dollars came along. But I think without us pushing it during my administration, I don't think Headwaters would have happened. I don't think Courthouse Square would have happened either. And they were partnerships, but oftentimes it's got to be the local government that's got to push it through. And those are still here today, and those will be here for a long time.
You look at downtown in particular, the whole of Fort Wayne in general. How do you feel about the direction of things?
I think downtown is really, it's just since before, from the time I first ran for mayor and now, it's significantly improved. I've questioned the Ball Diamond, but it's gorgeous. It's we'd had the plans for the new hotel on the books for years. I think it took this project to finally get that done. It's I still question some of the decisions that were made, and maybe would have done some of these things differently if I'd been mayor. But it's easy to second guess. But I think we've got a downtown we can be proud of. I think it's drawing more people here, and we still need to get more people living downtown. That's something I tried to push early on with Mayor or with Midtown Crossing, and it got some people coming in, but we need a lot more. I mean, the one thing, living both in Fort Wayne and DC, it's interesting to see some of the comparisons. And there's a lot of things where we do a better job in Fort Wayne, but there's some things where they do a better job in a city the size of DC. And even there, though, they need to work a lot better on snow removal, for example. But it's running a city's tough. Making a city work is tricky. It's people live close to each other for a reason. We are social beings, and we want to live close to each other, and that means you figure out the roads and the streets and the trash and the transportation planning and all that, and the public safety issues. Guns are a lot different when you're living with a lot of folks next to you than when you're living out in the country, and that's the challenge, but that's the excitement too. And I think Fort Wayne's on the right track. We need to get the economy going, and we need to watch all the other issues that are out there. But I'm proud of the city, and I try to bring it up every time I do a national interview that I came to this issue. I learned about things like this because I was mayor of Fort Wayne, and that's still really where my heart is.
Paul, anything else you'd like to add?
I think that covers everything.
Okay.
For now. Okay.
We appreciate your time.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Sure.